Hey, sixth graders, we are on lesson 2.1, and we are going to continue to dig a little bit deeper into what causes sediment and magma to form. So we know that sediment and magma are part of the rock transformation process, but what really causes them to form? So today we are going to be able to identify the energy processes that drive rock transformation. All right, we know from our first lesson that we think that one of the rock formations formed before the other. So when we talk about one of the rock transformations, we're talking about either the Great Plains or the Rocky Mountains. So either the Great Plains or the Rocky Mountains formed before the other one, and then the minerals from the older rock became part of the newer, younger rock. So now we're going to investigate which rock formation formed first. Do we think it was the Great Plains or do we think it was the Rocky Mountains? So in this investigation, we are going to look into the source of the magma and the sediment. So because we know or because we think that either the Rocky Mountains or the Great Plains formed first, and we know that there's some sort of magma driving one of them and sediment driving the other one, we need to really know where the source of these come from. So did the Great Plains form from the Rocky Mountain sediment? So did the sediment come down off that mountain, right? Come down off that mountain and create sediment, and then that's how we got the Great Plains? Or did the magma, so we know that magma formed the Rocky Mountains, did the magma have its origin from the Great Plains? So did it originally come from the Great Plains? So again, we're talking about magma and sediment. So sediment is formed by weathering of rock, right? So we had in our simulation the rain come down and it crumbled up that rock, it weathered that rock, and then we also modeled it when we were making our Jolly Ranchers. So things like water flowing over land, breaking it into tiny pieces, we could have wind blowing it. We could also have water flowing underground, underwater, in the ocean that could break down rocks and make it into sediment as well. So magma is formed by the melting of rock underneath the ground. So again, in this example, in our simulation, we had magma forming in the mantle here, and that is underneath the ground, right? We know that we can't be down here and we're up here, so it is underneath the ground. And just as another example of a cross section of the Earth, we have the core, we have the mantle, right? The mantle is quite large, and then we have Earth's outer layer. These are the plate tectonics, the plates. So the mantle, right, this is where we are getting that magma from. So we're kind of wondering what causes rock materials to change, and then why do these processes occur in different places? So we know that weathering and melting are two of the processes that are happening. So why are these happening? What causes them to happen? And then why and how is it changing our rock material? So let's explore these factors. We learned a little bit about matter, and we know that all rocks are made up of matter. So are humans and lots of other things, but everything is made up of minerals and matter. Our rocks are made up of matter. Energy is always involved in the changing of matter. And when I say changing of matter, I mean, if we think about this ice cream cone here, we can see that if we have an ice cream cone when it's really cold, and if we don't eat it fast enough, it'll melt, right? It changes. Our ice cubes can melt into water. Our water can be frozen into an ice cube. Those are changes. We're changing matter. So energy is always involved when there is a change in matter. And in your simulation, you are going to be able to explore some of those energy effects. So we're going to explore what happens when we change the energy in our simulation. So we're going to change what happens when we melt rock magma, when we change the energy there, and when we weather the rocks into sediment. To do this, you're going to click on that little hamburger button, and then you're going to click on energy mode instead of process mode, and you're going to be able to change and explore those effects of energy. Let's see if it will let me open the simulation. Again, we're going to go up to the hamburger. We're going to switch it to energy mode. And then we are going to be able to turn on and off the sun, which is an energy. And we're going to be able to turn on and off the Earth's interior, which is another place that we get energy. So the energy, or so energy itself, so what role does energy play? The energy is the ability to make things move or change, right? Move, we can see that we have rocks moving, the sediment is moving, weathering, or change, we have magma that is now a rock. So it is needed in order for matter to change. And I really want you to explore that in the simulation today. Can you weather rocks, or can you form magma into to rocks inside the earth or outside the earth without energy, without these two driving energy sources, the sun and the earth's interior? Energy causes weathering and rocks to change into sediment, and melting, changing rocks into magma. So some of the vocabulary terms that will come up in this lesson is weathering, so the process of rocks breaking down into smaller rocks due to wind or moving water, and erosion, which is the movement of that sediment or of those little rocks from one place to another, and then that's often caused by the same source that causes weathering, so wind and flowing water. Oh, we got to add this video.
Looking at rocky landforms, you might think they've always been the same, but they're actually always changing. These rolling hills were once very different. Millions of years ago, they were jagged peaks. The surface of Earth is constantly transformed by a process called weathering, where energy from the sun causes rock to break down into smaller and smaller pieces. But the sun doesn't melt or break the rock directly. The process is more complicated than that. The sun's energy warms the ocean, and liquid water evaporates into water vapor in the air. Then the water vapor condenses into clouds and falls as rain or snow. Energy from the sun also warms the atmosphere, making air move around as wind. Together, the moving water and air interact with Earth's surface, causing weathering. Here are some examples of how this can happen. Wind can blow small rock particles over landforms, slowly wearing down the rock. In the mountains, frozen water falls as snow and forms glaciers that are like huge rivers of ice. The ice grinds against mountain rock, slowly carving valleys. Water from rain and melting snow forms fast-moving rivers. River water bounces rocks around, causing them to bump into each other and break into smaller and smaller pieces. Through this process, giant boulders can break down into tiny pieces of sand. Broken down rock is called sediment. Sediment is moved around by the same wind and water that created it. This process of moving sediment is called erosion. Erosion happens in many ways. Rivers can move sediments downstream. Wind can blow sediment to a new location. And rain can cause landslides that move sediment downhill. Now you know how energy from the sun causes weathering and erosion on Earth.
All right, so in this video, we really we learned a lot about how energy plays a huge role in weathering. And not only that, but we kind of delved into the rock cycle, or to the water cycle, a little bit. So if you have background knowledge about that water cycle, that should help you in this. If not, don't worry, you will still be super successful, and you will have an opportunity to learn about this in our future units. So today we were really trying to identify those key energy processes that drive rock transformations, which are the sun, the energy from the sun, weathering, and also Earth's interior. So remember that the energy is key to understanding the transformations, and the sun can cause weathering, or the Earth's heat can cause melting. Today, for your lesson, for the next part, you are going to work on your must-do practice. For this, you are going to be moving these little pictures here up into these boxes. So you're going to tell me what is happening at the surface and what is happening at the mantle. And then, so just sort these out and submit, and then go to the next page. On the second page, you are going to complete an explanation for the prompt that is written. So it's asking, hey, a friend thinks this is what's happening. Can you explain to them what, in more detail, what about the process, what about the sun's process, weathering process is really happening? If you need to, come back to this video so that you can get more information and you can complete that activity. I hope that you enjoy learning about energy and that you get just a little bit more energy in your day from learning about it. Remember, today is a great day to learn. Happy learning!